What is going on? We are live again on the Buyer Show. Today we're going to be talking about the first floor pros and cons. I got a nice list right here. Just want to make sure that we are live and everything is good. It looks like we are. One of the biggest things that we've actually really appreciated from you guys is the feedback that we've gotten. Okay, so in other words, the number one thing that you guys have told us is topics, things we want to cover, things that we want to talk about. How's the marketplace? Where are the numbers? Where's the best place to buy? Where's the best place to do anything? And that's essentially what we're going to do. So before we start this video, just want to let you guys know that we're going to be bringing on creators for our blog. So another creators, any influencers, anyone that wants to contribute to our blog, we're going to be obviously not just allowing this for everyone, but it's going to be New York City based. We have a foodie, we have a travel person, and we have someone about New York City dating. So we're going to kind of just correlate a bunch of things in here. We're going to really be blowing out our content. We've gotten incredible feedback, not only on the content that we're producing, but the way that we're actually producing it. So if you guys have any questions, obviously leave in the comments below. And we are going to be talking about one of the biggest things that everyone wants to know, which is the pros and cons of living maybe in a walk-up, but most importantly on the ground floor. Okay, anytime that someone lives on the ground floor, it's a little bit different. The first thing is not only we'll first go over the cons. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward when you're talking about living on the first floor. Number one is the trash. Okay, if you're facing the back or the front, it's going to be a little bit different. You know, the front, it's obviously going to be noisier. The back, you may get light, you may not get light, but you're also going to be on the first floor, maybe neighbors that party. Okay, so right now I live in the West Village, and one of the people that lives literally I'm on this 5th floor, but it's a what do they call it? A backyard. It's one backyard over, but it echoes up between the buildings, and they're so loud sometimes. Thank God that I have my AC on, so I don't really hear it sometimes, but they go into the early mornings, and if you're on the first floor in the back, you would definitely hear that. In the first floor in the front, you're going to hear the people walking by. So number one is obviously the noise. Number two is the amount of trash that people may be coming in and going. So if you're on the first floor, it's kind of one of those things that you may smell it, you may not smell it, but what comes with trash is rodents. Okay, nobody wants rodents, nobody wants vermin, nobody wants cockroaches, nobody wants any of that. You're most likely going to experience that on the first floor. Lack of privacy is the next thing. So lack of privacy could be in any regards. Lack of privacy in the way that your windows are open or that you see out, they could see in. In the backyard, it's not as much unless there's a shared backyard by the building and people could see down. It's kind of like having your own private backyard space. Everyone from above can look down, and they also drop things down there like cigarette butts or trash or things like that. Security concerns. In New York City, I've only heard of one instance in 9 years, actually coming up on 10 years, only one instance of actually a break-in, and it came through the fire escape, and they were on the 3rd or 4th floor. It was a very nice building, very nice converted building, converted condo, so it was a full floor, and obviously, the way the person was telling me, I said, there's no way that the person didn't know, because it happened while they were in the shower, which is crazy to think about. I was like, did they come through the front door if that was open, or did they come through the fire escape? So we don't know, but on the first floor, obviously you have a lot of people coming and going, including delivery people, you have food people delivering food, so you have UPS, USPS, and then you also have food delivery, and between all of that, and then coming in through the back or the front, there's potentially security concerns. That's not as much. This one is, I can tell you, for living in a building, when someone comes into a building, this is really funny. So on 60 Minutes, what's her name? Who's that famous actress? She wore like a meat suit at one of the MTV Music Awards. She has, I think, one name. Well, she grew up on the Upper West Side. She's a famous singer. I can't even think of her. That shows how much I'm not involved in entertainment, and I could care less about entertainment. But she's out there when it comes down to, breaking down barriers and whatever. But she grew up on the Upper West Side, and she said anytime that she was visiting her friends, and her friends weren't say picking up their phone, or that she was, doing something where she needed to get into the building, all she would do is say, this is the buzzer, this is an old school buzzer, and you had all the floors and everything else. She would just literally just press all of them. When someone open the door, she would just say, UPS, easiest way to get into a building, and that's why I don't let anyone in my building. But when you do that, usually aim for the top, the bottom floors, because A, they could see you, and or they could say, who you here to see and whatever. But buzzing, and obviously I have it here, is knocking is one of the biggest things. So those are the cons. The pros, and this is all obviously in walk-ups. So the pros are that there's no stairs. Okay, and this is something that the value is obviously a lot less on the first floor. Then it goes up to the second floor, and it depends if there is an elevator or not an elevator. But there's no stairs, there's no elevator, number one. Number two is that it's extremely easy to move, and it's extremely easy. So right now I'm on the 5th floor. If the elevator, because it's so slow, isn't on the first floor, I just take the stairs. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna wait for the elevator to come all the way down, then I go all the way up, and by the time, and I've timed it out multiple times, is that I can get there almost 2 times faster by taking the stairs. So if you're on the 2nd floor as opposed to the 1st floor, or even on the 1st floor, you just walk right in. And I lived on the 1st floor. It's actually extremely convenient. You have groceries, or you're moving in, you're moving out, even packages getting delivered, it's just dropped at your doorstep. For everyone else, they just leave it at the front. Amazon packages and things like that. Less expensive. Talked about it already. Obviously, if it's a 2nd floor, it's right in between the 3rd floor on a walk-up. Obviously, it starts getting a little bit more expensive and whatnot. Less expensive on a walk-up. But when you're going and you're actually buying a condo, it's like an in-between. It's really hard to price it out in a walk-up condo or co-op, because the 5th floor, sometimes they have great views, they have a lot of sun, it's the top floor, so they have no one above you. Yes, there's the roof and concerns about the roof and leaking and things like that. But I can tell you right now that in general, the 1st floor is a little bit less expensive. And this thing, which one of my first listing deals in 2011, I represented someone at 300 East 93rd Street, 41E. I can't believe I just remembered that. But I remember walking in, and I did the listing presentation, and it was cloudy, but it was on the 41st floor, overlooking the East River in downtown. It was just this stunning view. And I remember leaving, and I'm like, what a great apartment. Once the view comes in, the clouds leave, and then the view comes in, this place is gonna be stellar. Sure enough, of course, because I'm amazing, I was at Hallstatt Property at the time. We got the asking price at the first open house, but this was the really interesting thing, is the owner, this actually, and I have a story after this is really funny. So the owner actually said, when the sun is out, it's really hot. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's really hot because the building was built where it had the 2-pane glass, but it didn't have the reflective glass. So it kind of just, all the sun just came in, and you're just burning up. You're like a chicken in an oven. First open house comes around, I had to crank the ACs, all of them. Bedroom, living room, we had another one right near the kitchen. All the ACs were blasting. It was like, they walked in and it was hot outside. So when people walked in, they're like, oh, this feels cool. I'm like, yeah, it's also really hot when the ACs are not on. But the view was incredible. The second thing is, this is really funny too, is that we walked into, I was representing a buyer, he wanted a 3-bedroom, he was dumping his Long Island house because all of his daughters were graduated and moved out. So he's buying the 3-bedroom, he bought it at a great price, and he was on the right around the 30th floor on the west side, and right on Riverside Boulevard. And we walked out, and the buyer's looking at me, he's like, place. I was like, don't say anything, because it was expensive. It was 3.5 million, and the buyer, of course, I couldn't reel him back, but he said, so what's wrong with this place? Because I really like it. And I'm like, oh gosh, what are you doing? So the broker, crazy enough, he goes, well, in the winter it gets a little bit windy. And we laughed because it was July. So we're thinking, I'm burning up, it's hot. And the buyer goes, oh, ha, 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 ha. January rolls around, and the buyer texted me. He goes, dude, that listing agent is 100% spot on, because as we were walking down, and you're going down to Riverside Boulevard, you have these big big buildings that are just blowing water off the Hudson, and when it's January and February, you're kind of leaning into it. It was kind of funny. So there's always a pro and con for everything. If you're really high up, it could be really hot. So if you want to buy on a really high up floor, you want to make sure you're facing north. You obviously don't get the great downtown views, and you probably don't get the river views on either end. But it will save you on the blinds and on the AC bill. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Listen, I go with, and I'll just conclude with this, is that I always go with, how are you feeling? When you walk in here, how are you feeling? It's not, it checks all the lists. It's just, do I feel fine that it's on the first floor? I have a pitch after this, and one of the things that, so we just sold one on the 3rd floor, but we're going to be representing one on the 6th floor soon. Very similar layout. And there was one available on the 1st floor. So we sold one on the 3rd floor, there was one available on the 1st floor, and now we're going to the 6th floor to represent it. The one on the 1st floor, every single person was said, security, noise, right near the street. So you also have to price it very accordingly to those objections. I know you've lived in there and it's beautiful and everything else. Check out how to get your home available for sale, which we did yesterday. Go to YouTube. So we'll conclude on that is that you have to price it well. If it's for rent, it's a little bit different because it's easier to handle an objection on the 1st floor, which is you're only renting this. You're going to be out in 2 years, But if you're buying it, you have to price it, especially in a walk-up. You have to price it accordingly, especially in this marketplace. This marketplace is a little bit different than everything else. So if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is that people love correlated or actually curated content. So if you guys have any questions, leave it below. Like, share, subscribe wherever you're watching this. We tried it on Facebook. So if it came out great, hopefully. If it didn't, we're going to readjust. That's all part of our strategy. Labor Day weekend is obviously coming up. Looks like it's going to rain, maybe not rain. But one of the biggest things I want to leave you with is that we're coming out with our BPI magazine. So it's known as BPI Lifestyle, the magazine, because in the future we're going to have BPI Lifestyle, the event, BPI Lifestyle, blah, blah, and we're just going to, obviously get this whole ecosystem around that. We're building out the website, which if you are a contributor, a creator, an influencer, or anything like that, in whatever niche or any space, email me, charles@bpi.live. charles@bpi.live. And we're going to make sure that you get in not only with the magazine, but also with creating content. We have a designer, we have an editor. We also have someone that assists along the way, so it's not all on me because I'm not the best writer. I'm good at producing these videos, but that's about it. So have an amazing day. Enjoy your Tuesday. We're going to be coming out with a couple of more not only better homes, but content based on what you guys say. So have an amazing day. Talk to you guys soon.